I'm excited, buddy. Really excited.
Why are you excited, sir?
Because we got a woman here that I met a few months back and just started talking in a casual conversation. And she's got so much going on. She makes me look like I'm like dead. I mean, and she's so passionate about everything she's doing, and she's doing great things for society, for the future of our world and everything else, and a great past also. So I can't wait to dive into Sylvie. It's awesome.
Man. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you too. I was excited. One, I was just like, okay, I heard her name, but more importantly, literally when she gets here, almost everybody that she's met in the Ray-Ban office come like, oh my gosh, Sylvie's here. So like, it was like, I'm like, I must be out of the room. Like, I didn't even know how much of a superstar that she was. They promoted her so well, like she was Michael Jordan. I didn't want Mike. I wanted Selfie, so I'm excited.
You're putting the bar very high here.
Yeah. Well, you know what? So after I met her, she's involved and started this organization that's really cool. And so it's like, oh wow, my daughter loved that, and Karen in our office loved it, and Debbie would love it. All these leaders in our office would love to be part of it. So sure enough, I told them about it, and they're all like in. I think they all pretty much showed up to one of your meetings after this. But so anyway, they came back like on fire, like, whoa, this is awesome. I want to really, really be part of this organization that Sylvie's created. So I'm excited about this conversation, buddy, and I hope you are too.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So let's go. Let's get right into it. Let's introduce Sylvie. Really appreciate you being here. Last name, Légère. All right, I'm French and French Canadian.
You're supposed to know this.
I barely speak English still, right? But that's a cool name. Sylvie, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, I want you to say your name now again.
So it's Sylvie Légère.
Légère. All right, awesome.
So exotic. That's an amazing name. I love it.
Yeah, from Canada, from Quebec. Very exotic. I always get that. So where are you from? And you're like, from Quebec.
Yeah.
Well, when you haven't been out of Chicago like you and I, right? It's pretty exotic, right?
I'm just saying, man. And the way you say it, Légère.
But then again, you could say you're from Detroit, and we're going to think it's pretty exotic, okay? Right? So thanks for being here. And what we do, we basically interview people that we think have gone beyond, normal, the normal status quo when it comes to challenging things in their life, when it comes to building things that other people haven't thought about, taking leadership roles in their community, in their country, the world, right? And so you exude a lot of these things, and we want to just dive into it. But we basically usually go into your family kind of background, where you grew up, and what that was like. How did your mind evolve as the person you are today, as the leader you are today, and then kind of get into how much fun you have and how passionate you are about all the things you're doing. So
great.
I know you can handle that, because I heard a lot of this stuff in a 45-minute conversation during a Cubs game not long ago. So.
That's right.
So if you can start from the beginning, that would be awesome, and talk about your upbringing and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Canada. I'm from Quebec, and from a town called Gatineau near Ottawa, so across the river from the capital. And so I grew up there, and my parents, my mother worked in library. She was director of library and worked in government, and university, director of university library. And my dad was a politician. So my dad was a lawyer and then became mayor for about a decade of our town. That was called a Hall before. And my dad was a really gifted politician, and one that cared about the opinions of people and believed that everyone had value to any conversation and input to solving problems. So I think I took from him that really has become the center of what I've become today.
So and think about that that one statement right there, right? Everybody has value in any conversation, and if you're in a meeting with 5 people or 20 people, right? I mean, what can we do better to get everybody's mind involved and engaged? Maybe prior to the meeting, in preparation, and I know going forward you do cool things with that. And I thought about my own business, where we probably don't do a good job always of that. And then in the meetings themselves, right? How do you get everybody engaged and making sure everybody's bringing their input? Because so often you get somebody that talks too much like me, right? And they take over the meeting.
Yeah.
They take over the meeting, and you crush the creative minds of the people around you if you're talking too much. So I love that. We'll hear more about that.
We'll talk more.
But your dad
about that,
sounds like your dad was a master at that. And
He is. I mean, even he comes here and visit us and comes to Wilmette, and he could really run for office in Wilmette. I mean, he just knows everybody even more. He just encounters and has a way of interacting with people and makes them feel valued, feel good, and then he loves to hear their stories. So that's so I kind of grew up in that environment where my dad was really an open door policy kind of guy in the way he ran the city. And even today, 30 years later, people are still remember him as the mayor, which is crazy. And even now it's children of people that were adults when he was a mayor. So that was a big influence. And my mother was really is really a hardworking person, and really ran worked full time and throughout our whole childhood and everything. So really grew up in an environment where there was all sides. So, but not an entrepreneurial environment. So I have to say, it's really, when I came here, so I started, I don't know why exactly, but I really was committed to not working for the government. And, when you grow up in a government town, a lot of times people around you are about working for the government, and it's a pension and it's regular work. And I don't know why, but I was definitely, this was not going to be something I was going to do. And I wanted to also have an international experience. And I ended up going to college in management information system and became a consultant with Accenture. And that's where really was my exposure to the United States.
What college did you go to?
So the University of Ottawa. So in Canada, it's really not like here.
Okay.
You don't visit a zillion colleges. Actually, you stay really in the province where you grew up.
Wow.
You stay in your state.
Okay.
For the most part.
Gotcha.
And my parents said, well, you could go study somewhere else for your master's, but for your undergrad, it really doesn't matter. Oh. And I was a little bit annoyed with that, but
you're a little bit of a rebel. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. But I went with it, and so my family background is more in economics and political science, etc. And I decided to enroll in a program in business. And as I was in the queue waiting to kind of finalize my registration, this was the late 80s, right? Nothing online. Yeah. I stumbled upon a paragraph that described management information systems, and I didn't really have any background in computer science or anything. And I just thought this was about solving problems in business using technology, and it really appealed to me. And I discovered I was really a pragmatic person, so I enrolled and I studied that, and it was part of a co-op program. So, worked 4 months and studied 4 months. And I worked at different companies, including some Crown Corporation, like government type companies, consulting firms, IBM. So it gave me a great exposure to work, and Awesome. It pushed me to learn English.
Okay.
So University of Ottawa is a bilingual university. It's one official bilingual university in Canada.
So high school didn't have English also?
No, well, I went to a French high school, very French. And I only spoke French. Wow. And I was not really talented for languages. So when I got to college, University of Ottawa allows you to take your classes in English or in French, and towards the same degree. And you needed to achieve a certain level of bilingualism to graduate. And because I was in this co-op program, I became completely off with the classes schedule. So I had to take classes in English, and I had to work in English.
Oh, man.
And then I just did it. And now I'm bilingual.
Awesome. That's persistence, because I know I choose Duolingo and I try Spanish, and for some reason I can't stick with it. And now you're over here already in college learning a second language. That's quite disciplined and difficult. And how did you, I guess what's the mindset to do something even at that level?
I think you learn languages. What I've learned is you learn a language by being immersed in it.
Gotcha.
You're not going to learn it. Duolingo is repetitive, and it's great to just brush up on your vocabulary.
Absolutely.
But when you have a goal and you have deliverables to produce, and you learn the language.
Sure.
Right?
You dive into the culture, and you're gonna figure it out.
I mean, and then I did grow up with some English, but everywhere I went, so my parents sent me to like summer camp, in the U.S. actually, and there's always a French person wherever you go. There's always a French person. So I would always find a way to not really speak that much English. Even I was working at IBM for an internship and as part of the co-op, and turns out the guy in my group was from Quebec City. And so whenever I had a question, I went to this guy. So anyway, but so that's it's kind of my path into from a career perspective, just starting into technology.
So your first big job out of school was?
Yeah, it was at Accenture. And
good start.
So
Great
interesting consulting. I absolutely love consulting. I've discovered I'm a systems person, and I love projects, deliverable focus. I love the firm. I loved really everything about it. And then the firm, actually, I was really blessed to just meet people in my office who happen to know about an opportunity to come study here at Northwestern and be sponsored by the firm, and part of a new program at Northwestern. I was with the Institute for Learning Sciences, and I found my mentor. Back in those days, you were assigned a mentor.
Oh, wow.
And I'm really grateful for this person, Graham Gordon, who really went to bat for me to say, yeah, we should send someone from our Ottawa office to this 2-year program at Northwestern. It's a master's. It was a master's in computer science applied to learning sciences. So how do you design, develop learning environments online? And this was back the year that the internet browser, the first internet browser, Netscape, came out, right? So this was beginning 94.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Beginning of the internet, green screen were brand new. Like there was no cell phones.
Man.
There was
How old was I? I was 8.
Maybe you were not born.
Yeah. Yeah, 8 years old. Huh?
8 or 9.
So I age myself, but it's amazing too. But so it was a great opportunity, and I'm just about seizing the opportunity that came about, and decided to do that, and that's what brought me to the U.S.
So yeah, and to be immersed in that then, right? You weren't sure. I mean, you're probably kind of sure that this technology thing was going to take hold and it's going to mean a lot, right? But it wasn't like, when I was a kid, people told, I'm a little older than you, of course, but when I was a kid, people said, this technology thing is something maybe, kids should start studying more and you should get it. But nobody's that serious about it, right? By the time you came around the 90s, a little more serious, right? But still not like it is today where, gosh, it's everywhere, right? Back then, it was still maybe you're taking a little risk in this technology thing, right? But you felt that it was, of course, going to be, taking over all business and all that. And it was going to be tools.
To be honest, I was not really a visionary kind of person. I just go with it, right? I seized the opportunity. It seemed interesting to me. I was more, and I guess I am a technology person and seeing new technologies. Like I was an early adopter of the Palm Pilot, if you mention all that.
Okay. All
First,
right. That was a big
I'm very early adopters of technology.
I had 3 or 4 different versions of that Palm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was big.
Yeah, it was
nobody
big.
thought that was going to be, swapped out for anything.
I think I bought the first one. Yeah. I mean, so I think I just see the value of how technology can enhance our lives and can allow us to do so much more and do things differently. And it's something that really always interests me. And perhaps that's what I had, but I was not a big visionary. And actually, that's the one thing I wish I were back then.
But you're a problem solver, which ends up to be very often become kind of a visionary because you're solving problems, and that problem is like, wow, it's we can actually solve this problem and create this product from solving the problem, right? So I think some of the best visionaries are problem solvers that understand the opportunity now to serve many, right? And you kind of become a visionary. From when I know your past too, I think that you're a problem solver and you love solving problems, right? Is that what's brought all this stuff on?
Right. Right. No, that's really, that's kind of what emerged as I look back, and I love this quote, I think, from Steve Jobs, where, sometimes you look at where you are in your life and it's worthwhile to look back and see and connect all the dots that led you to where you are. And if I look back, it seems like all these small choices really lead me to what I'm doing today. And,
right.
Yeah,
I used to look at all those things as coincidence. It's a coincidence. I met this person that took me to this person. I met then I did this and I did that. I mean, today I look at it as all God stuff, right? God's guiding me in the opportunities I have in my life. But really, I looked at those as coincidence all along. Wow, what a coincidence! I met this person that introduced me to this person that taught me how to do this, that enabled me to do that, and I grew because of it, right? So as Steve Jobs looked back, think about those dots and how they connected, right, to create. And some of those might have been dots that you're like, maybe wouldn't want to visit again, right?
Right.
But hey, maybe made you stronger.
Right. And each dot, I think you build a different skill set that you bring, and it leads you to the next one, and leads you to meet people differently. When I came here, I didn't know anyone. I just drove my little Toyota down to Northwestern, and
what kind of Toyota was it?
It was a Toyota Corolla.
All right.
Okay.
And I had my bike in the back, and I drove through like Chicago Skyway, and had these random roommates here, and then I just built a life here in Chicago, and so many friends, and met my husband, and it's amazing, and all came from just a conversation at an office Christmas party about there's this program that Anderson may sponsor employees to go to, and seizing that opportunity sometimes. So it's about seizing the opportunities when they come around.
100%. And when you look at computer science and information systems and all that, what did you see early on, and that you're able, problems, a simple problem or a problem or two, maybe you're able to solve, and what anything in your nonprofits today or business today that you can see that these same skills that you learned have been applied otherwise in your life.
Yeah, well, having a consulting background is really helpful, because I think it brings to the forefront this process mind, right? You're trying to always solve a problem by fixing the process that perhaps caused the problem. And that mindset, I think, is very helpful in whatever endeavor you have. And I feel like that's bringing that consulting approach is really key. It's really unique.
It's the whole thing. So
whole thing,
so it's
right?
information systems, of course, but it's existing old school systems that are meshed with the computer science and other things, right? That put it all together, and where can we be more efficient, and what slows us down, and what can accelerate our speed or our quality, right?
Right. And you try to also, when you come from consulting and in systems, you think of methodology, right? You think of developing methodologies so things are scalable, repeatable, et cetera. So that's a good mindset. Right. Portion of my career was also, and my degree in computer science was in learning technologies. So what we study there is how the human learns, and that's really helpful, because people learn by doing. You know that, Gary, right? Yeah. I mean, it's people learn by doing, because you learn by your expectation failures or unexpected outcomes. Gets you to think differently and pivot, perhaps, if you're able to have that meta thinking. And then people learn by asking questions. And so for that, by information, by being able to interact with each other, those are kind of the ways. And if you're designing kind of a way for people to learn and evolve, then if you keep those three things in mind, it's really helpful.
Sure. And they learn, and you mentioned it, but, failure. I mean, you expect to fail, because if you're pushing the envelope, you're improving things, you're going to fail. You're going to and expect to fail maybe more often than you find success, right? And if you're a crazy scientist, what that I learned from the scientist in India, I was around for a month, right? He expects to fail thousands of times before he figures out before he has a solution. Thousands of times, right? But he's discovering things that nobody else in the world is, right? And he's going off of old science and new technology, right? The combination of all, he's expecting to fail thousands of times, and they record the failures every single time. And they what do I learn? What do we learn from that failure, right? What did it cost us? What do we learn from it? What can we use of that failure going forward? And what do we throw in the garbage? But it's amazing because they expect thousands of, failing thousands of times before they really find the solution. And they're crazy. They're solving amazing world problems, right? So it's fun to think of, in our business, we don't have to fail. If we have to fail 1,000 times, we're probably not in business, right? but we do fail often as we try to do new things. And sometimes we take on stuff that we probably shouldn't have tried, but we tried. And I think that's where success comes from. So from you as a consultant looking at these businesses, who are some fun businesses you worked with, or anything you can think of that you really had fun with, or that?
Well, here's one. I started off as a consultant working. Our client was Canada Post, right? Canada Post. Canada Post.
You're back in Canada again.
I'm back in Canada. I'm Canada Post, right? No, I'm back in those because actually it's now just recently, actually, and this fall, I thought about that experience very differently. So I was leading a project around bulk mail sorting. So I was in the sorting facilities where sort packages, right? And, back then I was just like, you know what? I have to get out of here, right? I do not, I don't, my people deserve to really deliver mail on time. And I just couldn't see the value, right? And that's where I think my lesson to kind of myself, or looking back, I'm like, I wish I had been able, or someone had been able to tell me, raise your gaze a little bit, because the backbone of a country is actually its ability to deliver goods to people, to people and businesses in the country. It's really critical. It's really critical that mail gets delivered on time. And I tell you, back then, I didn't care. I was like, what does it matter if a letter makes it in 3 days or 4 days? Today, when your Amazon delivery doesn't make it the day you said it would, you really freak out, right? So, having that thinking that's a little bit bigger of raising your gaze there, it would have been helpful.
Raising your gaze, I like that.
Raising your gaze, that came from a few people. So,
it came from Sylvie. That came from you.
It came from, actually, I'm going to be really honest. It came from Elise Stefanik, who's a congresswoman, and I heard her speak, and she mentioned that, and I'm like, that's a really
in our
good
minds,
time.
we don't know who she is. It comes from Sylvie. For me, it's Sylvie's deal. When you mentioned what you said there, I think about back when I worked in a factory when I was my first 2 years out of high school in the wintertime. I worked in the field paving and all that, right? But in the wintertime, we didn't pave. So I worked in a factory, so I didn't have to go into my savings, so I could buy equipment in the spring or whatever. I worked for minimum wage in Niles, Illinois, in a factory. A friend of mine was a supervisor, so I knew people, right? And I got a job in this factory. Anyway, but if I became really, really excited about going to work every day, because there's so many people from all over the world that were immigrants working there. I got to meet people from Russia and China and Mexico and all over.
Right.
And I paid attention to how passionate they were about being in America. And still today, some of my passion for our country is based on the fact that these stories that were told to me were amazing, and how they got here, how tough it was to get here, and they were making minimum wage next to me, building their life here, and so excited at the opportunities they saw around them in America, right? But if I said, oh, this lousy minimum wage job, I'm netting $102 a week, and why am I doing this, right? I could be, but instead I was kind of excited because I like the people. And I learned so much from these people that after 2 years in the wintertime doing this with my friend's company, I was a different person. So when I was out there knocking on doors to do the work I do and trying to get driveways in the North Shore and all over Northern Illinois, I was excited because I said, gosh, if these people, believe they have opportunity here, what's my opportunity? I speak the language, like a hillbilly, but I speak it pretty well, right? And I know the culture here like they don't. I can be very successful here, right? Because again, but if I didn't in that moment realize the value of being around these people and learning all about their culture, it would have been just a lousy minimum wage job. I look back and say, oh, poor me, I had to do that. No, it was an amazing blessing.
Yeah, and it's also it's also about sometimes people in a company you forget what the value that you're providing. I think that's what the raising the gaze is. You're so deep and busy with the day to day that you forget that you're actually really providing a service and something important to someone, whether it is, selling bikes or even just, even if it's something simple as producing like cakes or, you're bringing smiles, you're adding something to people's lives. And a lot of times that's what we forget to perhaps remind to our team members and associates is that piece.
If you talk to people, you talk to people working at McDonald's or Walmart or wherever you see somebody excited to serve customers. I love talking to those people when they're making minimum wage or, not a lot. And they're so friendly, they're so nice, and they're so passionate about their job. I like to stop them and say, "Man, you're awesome at what you do." And if you carry that on the rest of your life, you're going to be a success no matter where you go, right? Yeah. If you're that excited in this minimum wage job, and by the way, the lessons that can be learned at world-class companies like McDonald's, world-class companies like Walmart, right, in a minimum wage job are unbelievable, right? When it comes to systems of duplication, serving at the highest level in the world, right? Again, so. When raising your gaze is, I think if everybody thought that way while they're in any job, whatever they're making, thinking about what value are they providing, how can they provide at the highest level, right? So that the next job they get, this is a great stepping stone that creates the success for their future, right?
Right. So, and it's also about knowing your industry, right? Raising your gaze is also if you're in like, for instance, I keep going back to this example at Canada Post, right? I didn't realize that I was in the bulk mail delivery industry, that this technology was changing. It's delivering of packages. I could have applied the same knowledge and expertise.
You should have been Boeing. You should have been the Amazon. Why didn't you come up with Amazon? You had plenty of time.
Why didn't I come up with Amazon? Right? Why didn't I? Right? I totally missed that. Right? And saying the applications, these systems that we were developing to sort packages, which is pretty complex. Well, that also applies to Boeing or companies delivering supplies and getting, just providing the whole supply chain. And I didn't think of applying that thinking. That's what I mean about, raising the gaze. And a lot of times you just get so trapped in what you're doing. You just forget about the possibilities and seeing the possibilities.
So tell us about the next experience in Chicago after this. After you're in Chicago, you're working then for this consulting business as well, right?
Yeah. I was here, I was studying. We were the projects we had to work on for our thesis was for the firm, and we created actually a simulation to learn the 7 habits of highly effective people, if you remember Covey.
Oh, sure.
So, and interestingly, the one that was assigned to my team was empathic listening, right? Active listening, which is interesting because today I'm kind of applying that to a little bit to the policy circle, and then we'll get to that. But so that was like the focus while I was here in Chicago, and then went back to Toronto and worked in financial services for the firm. And then I met my husband while I was here in Chicago, and then we decided to get married and moved to Nebraska. So I worked at TD Ameritrade for a year.
And so he dragged you then out there, or you went willing?
Yeah, we decided. Well, we were in different cities, So I was in Toronto, he was in New York, and then we were traveling, and then we decided to get married and thought we'd be in the same city. Our initial plan was to be in New York, and he wanted to really go to Nebraska to work at TD Ameritrade, which was Ameritrade back then. And so I decided to pack up and then go there. So it was a really very different experience to be in a company that was growing. So it's that 1,500 people company. That's when you really start to get traction and things get really complicated. So it was an interesting time to be there, and then to discover Nebraska and Omaha, where life is good and no one thinks about Nebraska.
Right, there we go. That's why I was like, why would you go to Nebraska? I think that the Huskers, they're out there, right?
The Huskers, huge Huskers.
Are you okay?
I'm now a sports fan. But what's interesting there, when you speak a different language, and I had a much thicker accent back then, and people you meet, and they're like, "Oh, I know a French person."
Yeah, that's right. Oh, okay. Yeah, here comes
again.
Be
your friend. I know a French person. So I ended up meeting amazing people there who were all, because the University of Nebraska in Omaha actually really actively recruits students from abroad. And then so there's a really good, great expat community there, and made some great friends, lifelong friends there. And so it was a really great experience.
You got to get to Omaha. There's a great town.
Omaha.
There's a great town.
Yeah.
And I've got to know your brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Pete, and what a great job he's doing in that state. He's
very.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
And then I'm involved in the Governors Association, the Republican Governors Association Executive Council. So I've got to know him. He's been a leader there, and he's a neat guy.
Yeah, he's really. He's absolutely loving being governor of Nebraska. He loves the state. He loves every part of the state. He loves meeting the states, and he wants to really make the states an example.
He does.
State.
And he's a leader amongst the governors. So the Republican Governors Association, I think there's 27 maybe now that are Republican, and this association relies on the governors themselves to step up and lead the association. And he's done an amazing job leading it. As well. There's stepped in, he stepped up, and he's awesome. But again, how does that affect you being a part of all these underachievers, right? You got all these underachievers in the family, right? You got a father-in-law that built a little business, and I'm sure he's He's pretty excited about that, right? And their family's amazing. The Ricketts family is awesome. I mean, when you meet these people, they're don't know that they're successful in any way. They're just awesome people that are just as interested in anybody they meet as you are in them, right? I mean, so it's got to be a lot of fun being.
It's
being
a lot
of
fun.
family.
It was coming from Canada for a government town, and then marrying into this family of real entrepreneurs and believing in business, and really no one really sits still. It's a real blessing. Yeah. And also it really, it launches you, right? It inspires you to do more, to do something, and to be engaged. And it's true that, Todd's family, everyone is doing something impactful.
Yeah. They all seem to want to know that they're making a big difference, right? I mean, in this world, if we can make a positive impact every day, and the days that we're here, right? That's a good life. And it seems like each one has their own niche. You, your husband, Todd, Tom, your sister-in-law. I met her once. She's really neat. What's her name again? Laura also. Laura, Pete, everybody. Your father. Everybody has their own thing that they're building and doing, right? It's not like, we're all going to work for TD. No, that's what we're doing. We're working for Ameritrade. We're going to work. No, man, they're taking on their own, their own stories, basically solving problems. Every one of you guys. So you could probably feed off each other. I mean, that's what it looks like, right? Yeah,
a little bit. Or everybody, maybe feed off each other would be a good. And it's interesting. You notice how everyone has carved out a niche for themselves, and you kind of have to in that family to just stay on your own.
And also you're all different. I mean, it's not like they're all very. I mean, if you met each one of these people in this family, they're all so different. They're all you all have your different skills. You all communicate a little differently. It's not like they're a lot of when I talk to. I met Tom a few times, and Todd and Pete, and they're all different. I mean, they have their own way of doing things too, right?
Right. They have very different approaches. It's kind of, and I think they have very different personality styles and approach to things.
And so when you think about your what you're doing now. Okay, well, let's go into that. Let's go into what you've built and what you're building, and the difference you're making with the policy circle, and let's talk about that.
Yes. How did you start it? Things of that sort. How did you get it going?
Yeah. So, the policy circle, I really started it. I went to a conference with the American Enterprise Institute.
Great organization.
And with my father-in-law and Todd. And when I was there were great women. I just felt that women, I came back and I wanted to continue the conversations around the impact of public policy in our lives. And, one thing growing up in Canada, the time that I did, one huge debate that was very much alive all my life, and it still is to some extent, is the separation of Quebec from the rest of Canada. And then when I came here to the States was a year of a referendum that actually happened, and the no got won by 1%, right? So it was a very contentious time in Canada between English Canadian and French Canadian. Really contentious, but yet people were able to talk. People were able to explore the ideas and what would it mean, right? And I felt that, I was so busy with my work, with the businesses that we had started, my kids, a family, that I never took the time to step away from the business of my life and go beyond the headlines and take the time to understand the issues of the day. And I feel like that's what there was no forum for that. And I wanted to have a forum that I didn't have to go downtown, and I didn't want to hear a speaker. I really didn't. I just wanted to engage in a discussion.
Yeah.
So that's because you learn from asking questions. You learn by exploring ideas, and that's how you grow. So that's how it started. And and I met at a conference, I met these two other women, amazing women, Angela Brawley and Kathy Hubbard. And Angela is the former CEO of Anthem, WellPoint Insurance, Anthem, part of Blue Cross Blue Shield. Okay. She's on several boards, so she's really established a full career. And Kathy was very involved in various political campaigns and very, very connected in the world. So it was interesting. Like together, they were experiencing something similar in Indiana, where they brought together a group of women to discuss how do you solve poverty, the issue of poverty, and how do you address it? And they expected maybe 20 people, and they had about 60 people or 100 people that came. So we met right at the right time. We were all feeling this need for creating a forum for women to equip with facts, to engage in a dialogue so that they can strengthen their voice and then really actively participate in the public debate. So that's how it started.
I love it.
That's awesome.
And what year is that?
So that was in 2015. And so today, so we spend the last 4 years, we really spend on crafting what is that model, because we are not kind of a speakers bureau, right? So we are empowering women. We've developed a platform and a process that people can start a circle.
Is this community by community? Is it state by state?
It's all over. Whoever wants to start a circle. So for instance, in your office, some of Karen and Janelle, your daughters, were here. We formed this circle. So 2 or 3 women come together and say, we want to engage on a regular basis in these policy conversation. And they each invite 1 or 2 women. So the ideal circle is about 12 people.
Okay.
And then they could decide the makeup of that circle. Could it be community-based? Is it an enterprise? Is it from multiple neighborhoods in an area? So they decide what it is.
And it could be federal conversation on federal policy, or
right. So what we
state?
have is So we developed a library of policy briefs. So we have about now 35 briefs that cover topics from creating career pathways, which I know you're very involved in, mentoring and creating career pathways, digital landscape, poverty, entitlements, fiscal responsibility, economic
taxation,
economic growth, K-12 education, higher education. So we now have a really substantial library. We started with 5.
Oh, wow.
And these briefs are really designed carefully. Carefully, we curate information. So we're not a think tank. It's not about just producing talking points. It's about really creating a fact-based online document that allows you to really explore a topic and engage in a discussion. And it's not linear. It's one document with links to other articles, other reports, other research. Videos are embedded, so it's truly multimedia. So you could take 30 minutes to read it. You can dive deeper,
or you could dive
deeper and take 3 hours, right? But the value of this, and that's what I learned, is when you give people some facts, and then you invite them to engage in a roundtable discussion, and we have a really structured approach to that. People react to the facts, to the brief. They're not going to react to each other. They're going to feel much more comfortable also because they're not talking top of their head what they heard.
I like it.
They're reacting to something concrete. So they're going to be much more open to new ideas. They're going to be much more vulnerable also in sharing their experiences. And you get to develop really meaningful relationship with the people that you're encountering.
And it's nonpartisan, right? I mean, so there's people far left, far right, center. It doesn't matter.
I think the model itself is a little bit self-selecting because not everybody who wants to read and come together and engage in a discussion like that, right? But there's no labels. So we don't say the left thinks this, the right thinks this. We just lay out the brief are structured where the facts are presented. Yep. The issue is framed. What problem are we trying to solve? What are the needles that we're trying to move? And then we provide some historical background. So how do we get there, right? What was the original intent with taxes, for instance, and where do we come from? And then what is the role of government, of individuals, of business, and then what can you do? And the goal of these conversations is really to ignite in the participants a sense of, well, the buck stops with me and I need to do something. It's to ignite personal responsibility, engagement, and really develop community leaders.
Create ownership that you can actually do something, right? If you have this knowledge, it creates the tools that you can hopefully make a difference in the community that you serve, or the
however you define community, right? Yeah. So we do not have an advocacy arm, so we don't have a C4. So it keeps us really honest because it means I am not pushing for legislative change. I'm not lobbying. We're not. Right?
Individually, they can do what they want.
Individually, they can do what they want, and that's the whole idea. So, and what's been interesting is, we have had a few policy circles start in businesses. Like in your business, bringing together women there and around the brief. So, for instance, here at Rabine, the group discussed the digital landscape and. Substantive brief. It was the theme of our conference this past fall, which was living and leading in a connected world. And it brings up issues around infrastructure, around data privacy, around cybersecurity. Sure. It brings us various levels. And it was interesting what came out, from the team there, was there from Rabine, the need for training in cybersecurity, the how do we keep Rabine data secure and protect from cybercrime? How do you work with clients and suppliers? How do you engage on
that's wild because I didn't realize it came from there, but Debbie, I'm sure it has. My assistant Debbie was amazing, right? She goes, Gary, we Janelle and I have been talking. And Brad, one of our other leaders, we need to really get on top of this phishing thing that goes on, right? And I go, really? What? Tell me about that. What fishing? I'm not a fisherman, but tell me about it, right? And then started to get into it, and they're really going in depth of why we have issues that we got to be solving with this thing, right?
Yeah.
So protecting our information, protecting the phishing thing that goes on, right? Online.
Right. So it was interesting.
There, sure.
Yeah. So it was interesting because they brought together women from HR, from accounting, from your assistant, strategy, marketing, and all of these people to engage. And the model is a roundtable discussion. So we have this timer the hourglass that give you 2 minutes to express your views.
2 minutes each. So you're all about that, making sure everybody has a voice, right?
Yeah. 2 minutes each. So, and when we start off with what are the lens of care? What's your lens of care? When you think about this issue and you reviewed this brief, what came up? And lens of care from your personal perspective, like your home, your community, and then also your business. From a community perspective, people brought up how technology actually widens the gap between people because there's affordability of technology. Sure. There's expectations in schools that you're going to have certain devices. So that was one of the issues, that your team members brought up as a concern, as well as infrastructure.
Sure.
There's areas in Illinois where you can't have cell service.
And you do, I think I heard that you ask them to prepare first, right, before they get there.
Right.
What do you do for that? Because that sounds really cool too.
So they received the brief beforehand. So they were expected to read the brief before, and they actually all did.
And that's why it was so good.
That's why I made it. And
that's what made the rich
value.
conversation, right?
Absolutely.
That's what made the rich conversation. That's what allows it to be really nonpartisan, because the brief is not about policy, is about the ideas and the laws and the regulations and how we all, that impacts the way we behave. Politics is about the people and the party that will implement the policy and may drive and promote some. But that's the difference. So we're just talking here about the ideas and not necessarily the people, the politicians that will implement it.
But think about that cue right there, right? I mean, if everybody comes to a meeting, basically the leader or the staff, the team gets information out to the whoever the group is that's coming to the meeting, right? And they have to read it, they have to be prepared. Think about the lack of wasted time you have and people trying to, basically on the fly, try to understand the concept, asking questions, this and that, right? Because they didn't dive deep, right? And so leadership is, and organizational excellence is more of that, right? Making sure they come prepared by giving the right information, read it, make sure you do your homework, come prepared. And how much valuable is that 1 hour or 2 hour meeting when they're all prepared, right?
Yeah, and this wasn't 1 hour. This meeting, the conversation could be just very productive in 45 minutes.
Wow.
So this was over. I think we were about an hour and a half because I gave them a bit of background about the policy circle and the story, and I was there. But it could be a very efficient meeting where each brief come with a discussion guide that gives you like 3 rounds of discussion. First round around sharing your lens of care. Second round about having a discussion about what are the priorities, digging a little deeper. What's the role of civil society, of government, engaging on that topic. And then the last part is saving time for what can you do? What would you do? What would be the action item? So that's how it came out of it about training at Rabine. And then one person, it was funny, is people also brought up all the people issues, right, with technology, how you lack human connectedness. And then so I think your person in marketing was going to make sure that in the associate newsletter, there would be something about doing something outside and away from technology, right, and emphasizing that to promote human connectedness, right? And like 3 big action items came out. I
also like the lens of care, you say? Your lens of care, right? Your paradigm. I think of paradigm. Right. Took me a long time to understand the word paradigm. So I would have been way ahead if it's somebody's lens of care. But it's impactful to think that way, because each person has their own paradigm that they come from, and then their own, what do they care about now because of their past? What do they care about most on the subject?
Right. And that's what it allows for a really meaningful conversation. And you deepen the relationship with the people who are there because they are willing to share their past experience. And it's amazing what you learn from people that you think you've known for many years, and you're like, oh, I had no idea you were doing this.
Who's building this library? How do you build a library? Who's building it?
It's a very collaborative. So we have on the team, we have a policy editor, and we decide on the topics based on a little bit on what's going on in the news and everything, and also based on demand from our members, and also what we are planning for events, for a conference. We organize each year a summit. And then, so that's what drives it. So, and we have our policy editor, we have a standard table of contents. So she does the research, and then she really collaborates with all of the different universities, think tanks, resources.
Wow.
We really use a really broad network. And then we have peer review. So we have circle members, circle leaders who review these briefs, because sometimes, policy people, researchers, they just really enjoy research. And sometimes you're just like, why am I reading this? Why am I reading this? It might be really interesting.
Somebody went really deep on the research.
Yeah, they do really deep. And so we have peer reviews so that there's a goal to, it's really designed for conversation and also for engagement in your community or your company.
Do you have members?
I was going to say, how many circles? I mean, because it's been around since 2015. So how many circles?
So now we have over 300 circles.
That's awesome.
And 40 states and actually 3 other countries. So it's, and the circles, you might think, oh, this is kind of modest growth, but it's challenging
that's awesome.
to, it's a big ask of busy women who are working, and our focus right now is women, but the name is the Policy Circle, which, obviously will be for, everybody. This is our target audience, right? You need to start somewhere.
Right.
And for busy women who are juggling work, life, family, to say, oh yeah, I'm going to engage in a conversation about public policy, right? And it's also an intimidating topics because we are challenging women to engage on topics on which women are typically not necessarily engaged on.
Yeah.
Right. So we took a lot of time fine tuning the models. We came up with this 3-6-12 approach. You don't start alone.
Yeah.
You start with 2 other women. Each of you invite someone. So you're not the glue. We suggested, you meet 5 times. So it's 5 conversations. We group the briefs and themes so that
how about with when I think about the strength of this organization, how it's become and what it can be, right? It just seems like I'm guessing you're doing this, but what do you do to get, let's say, leaders from this organization, maybe a nonprofit, let's just say Heritage Foundation or whatever, right? A foundation that's out there that is doing good things with policy in federal government, state government, whatever. Do you solicit maybe some of these people that are engaged in these organizations that can bring great information to you?
Oh,
to be part of it?
We
you have representation from all different organizations?
From Brookings also, we go on all sides. So we try to really represent the different views and get people to question what's the role of government, right? And challenge that. But we rely on those, and we've developed great relationships. So we form a circle of public affair councils, we say. And so these are resources that actually we make available to our circle members. So we identify people that they could invite if they wanted to have an expert on a topic to come in.
So you get some people that love government so much that they want to grow it, and you have some of those, and you have some people that don't care for government so much, and they want it smaller. And then you talk about the policy, and some want to say, how can we grow this to serve more people in government? And others might say, how do we shrink this because they're not doing as good a job as they should? And right, I mean, do you get some of that good?
Yeah, I think we
back and forth,
right? And then that's what in the briefs we try to identify what's the role of government, right? What is and help really frame that. So giving people the language to engage then with their lawmakers, with their representative, to see how are they thinking about those issues, right? And it totally works, right? To be able, once you have the facts, once you thought about an issue.
But isn't there like 2 different views on that often? Isn't there often like 2 different views on what is the role of government? Because one view is
there's always a little bit of a middle ground, I would say.
Okay.
There's always a middle ground because there's a little bit of a space. Find the middle ground that also respects, is fiscally responsible, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to also get people to not only think about the issue, but then what's the long-term implementation and cost of that, right? So that's the other piece is well, it's good to have this legislation, but what is going to be the impact, the long-term impact? And how will it be implemented, supported, and then either sunset or how can it grow out of control? Because
so much policy is built with great intentions. I mean, almost everything should be built, and most things are built with great intention, right? We're going to solve a problem, just like we think in business. But in business, when it doesn't work out, right, we're paying the price. We feel the pain, and we got to either cut it off, say it's not doing enough good. We can't afford to continue with it, right? In government, I feel that. And what I've seen very often, it goes far from delivering the value as planned to deliver, and yet it doesn't go away. It even grows, right? The bureaucratic monster grows, and it's still not really delivering value, right? Because in government, it's easy to raise taxes and hard to fire and make things smaller, right? In business, we have to do that. In our personal lives, we have to do that to survive. In government, sometimes the urgency is not there.
Right.
So again, to talk about that and all that.
And that's the whole idea. That's the whole idea, to talk about that. Right. And then, so that's the other piece is what I want to bring is an approach to analyze policies so that you measure all of this, right? Before really advocating for something that will not have the impact that it's supposed to have. Yeah. But you need to get people to think that way. And it's not necessarily, how people, natural politicians especially, think of. They're not analytical minds, right? They're not, so they're more like people. So.
I know you said, so you have 300 300 circles, excuse me. And you said they're in like 30 states, right?
40 states.
40 states, I'm sorry. And then you're doing conferences as well, which is pretty awesome. What's the ultimate goal? Like, to get it just to be in, in every countries we never heard of as well.
5-year goal, 10-year goal.
Yeah. So what's the goal?
So, the goal so far has been growth, right? Okay. So to be established. And now the goal is to really educate and develop and, inspire and develop leaders. So I want one of the outcomes I would like to be, this is, if you want to become involved in your community, become a leader in your community, that the policy circle experience is what you have to do before that, right? So and for me, I have to say for candidates, if they are able to engage with a circle, with a policy circle, well, it tells me that this candidate listens, right? Listens to the constituency, is able to listen to ideas, to all different ideas. And that's a really a great tool. So the goal is that it really becomes a proven model for developing leaders. And I want to be international.
Yeah, in all aspects, for sure. When I think about women in business, man, this for sure, it creates the basic mindset of, understanding the metrics, understanding that, the what the policy means, whether it's in business or in government, right? Understanding how to talk objectively on both sides of it, right? And then getting feedback and active listening, like you talked about. All those things are invaluable in business. Heck, they're invaluable in family. Negotiating with your kids, when they've got a great point that they're wrong, but boy, they're selling it pretty well, right? I think in all aspects of life, what you're doing educates women to lead in every aspect of their life: family, business, government. And every individual should have some.
And I think also, businesses are asked more and more to play a role, to take into account the stakeholders and have an impact, a community, a social impact. And you need a forum to decide, well, what is going to be our impact, right? And this model, I believe, really provides that forum to engage with the associates, with the employees about what would they value and form what is going to be our social impact in our community.
Yes.
Instead of
an example, Janelle, my daughter, runs our foundation, the Ray Foundation. So I guarantee you many things she's listening to and she's doing, she's going to be duplicating within our foundation board that she's the leader of, right? And then beyond that, with our teammates beyond that they want to get engaged in the giving aspect of our foundation, right? So I'm confident that in all aspects, philanthropic, business, family, politics, right? You're going to find more and more women that'll step up and say, man, you know what? I could do the job that guy's doing. He's basically a salesman without any depth of understanding of the policy, right? Or, I see very often in my business that we have women that are very smarter than a person next to them, right? Yet. I'll use Janelle as an example. She is one that won't raise her, as much as she knows she can handle something, maybe 90%, she's not sure 98% of the time. Or let's say 98% she doesn't have, but 90% of that, the concept she has. And there's a person next to her that says, boy, I know I could do 30% of that. I'll figure out the other 70%, right? And usually it's a male, right? And that male will step up and say, I want that spot. I want to do that job, or I want that opportunity, right? When Janelle will be like, yeah, I wasn't 99% sure I could do it anyway, so it's probably good.
That's what
I think that's common in many, many of the women in my life anyway. I think that's common.
Right. And I think like this forum, what I've learned, the women I've seen and my personal growth through the policy circle experience has been amazing, because you learn to discuss topics for which you don't have all the answers. They're really complex. And what I found is, and I don't want to generalize or stereotype, but a lot of times women are are really strong executives, right? We are like, we go to the to-do list, we need to act, and sometimes less comfortable when it comes to just discussions of just ideas, or when it kind of is on the borderline of politics, where there might be chances for contentions, conflicts, or, they have a tendency to stay away from that, or a little more uncomfortable. Not all, of course. But this forum is a model to to strengthen that voice, to become comfortable with not knowing everything.
Eliminate most of the conflict too, right? Eliminate most of the conflict. Let's just go with facts. Like, let's just understand the facts and then make good decisions.
Right. So it's been interesting because now we're into this business of teaching facilitation, right? Because we stumbled upon this model, it's Socratic learning. We didn't stumble upon it. It's called Socratic learning. And with the round table discussion with the hourglass. This model is something that as an organization, we would like to really promote to other businesses and help facilitate. And that could become, an expertise that could deliver value.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what we're, so it's interesting. I'm always trying to think of ways to make the organization more.
Yeah. The one thing I would say, because you would definitely have an awesome facet about a lot of things that you've done, whether it be from the consulting piece, especially policy circle. I'm pretty sure a lot of people look at you from a mentorship perspective, and you even started with your first mentor. You talked about them. I know you see the value of mentorship as well. I'm assuming. What are probably some how can I say it, some characteristics when it comes to mentorship that you've either implemented in policy circle or that you see that people may need daily today, based off of you having 300 different circles going on in your organization right now?
Yeah, one of the one dimension of mentorship is the first step is really knowing yourself. And there's in the context of the policy circle, we our team did this. It's called a DISC personality. I don't know if you're familiar with that. You do that, right? Well, that DISC, I think, is the most valuable tool to get to know where you are on that quadrant. Because once you know, I think knowing yourself first is when you are ready for a mentor. And then your mentor knows really your strength as well as your perhaps areas of weaknesses or areas to improve on, I think is really the first step. And understanding through the policy circle experience, I also realized like everybody is very different. The way they communicate and in their views and what they're comfortable with. And it's learning that. It's learning what you are comfortable with and what you're not, and being willing to expand your comfort zone.
Sure. And
the policy circle is an invitation for expanding your comfort zone. I'm all about like igniting the potential in people. And I think that's what, when it comes to mentoring, that's what, as a mentor, you can provide, is seeing the possibilities for someone and igniting their potential.
Right.
Really good.
And as far as cost to this and all that, I mean, how it's a nonprofit currently, right?
It's a nonprofit, so we really depend on contributions, investments from our members, and
businesses that bring in their teams and
exactly.
Awesome. So, and how's it going? Is it a break even? You guys, are you bleeding like ours is right now, or how
Well, we're breaking. We're on a budget, so we don't. I mean, I've had an organic growth, so it's been we're growing at the pace that we can afford in a way. So yeah, it's growing. So it's not my strong. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I want to put this on a podcast, but I'm not a good salesperson, right? I'm just not. Okay. I'm just not a great salesperson and that's one of my areas, my zone of expanding my comfort zone is to really sell the model, fundraise, ask for support. And
I believe you're an awesome salesperson because you're a great example of what you're doing. And you just need those closers out there, talking about the benefits and how cool it is, right?
Right.
You're not one that's going to talk about yourself and how good, how great it is because you built this. But if there's other people that just follow up with your story, your sales side of it is the best because your story is the best, right? But then if it's other closers after you saying, okay, you heard Sylvie's story, now pony up. You got 5 people from your company going in there. We expect this much out of you per year, right? You're going to get more of that in value. So let me know how you want to build that. I'll help you. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I am going to call you on that.
I believe your salesmanship is awesome. It's just a matter, you got to have somebody behind you closing.
Yeah.
Because your story is just cool.
Yeah.
And the benefit you're going to deliver is going to be amazing. I mean, and you're delivering, I should say. The benefit you're delivering to women across the country.
Yeah, I'm like
awesome.
seeing it. And the other challenge is really for women to tell us what they are doing.
Yeah.
So, we developed this so everything is online. We develop a website so you can manage the activities of your circle online. You can post recaps.
So you've got lots of stories out there. Lots of
but we need
stories.
to get women. But the thing is that women, this is another thing about women,
they're not going to brag about
everything that they do, right?
Huge. They need more. We need to train women to be like us, right?
So
more braggadocious,
right? So they're not going to brag. So I meet someone. I'm at this event. I meet someone. I'm like, oh, we did a brief on election integrity, and after that, I decided to sign up to be an election judge.
That's cool.
Well, that's awesome.
You need that story.
I need that story.
So two things you need. You need storytellers, story writers to tell stories, right? And harvest all the stories you can. Just like we're bad at getting testimonials, right? We have thousands of customers.
Yeah.
And we do everything to make sure they're happy, right? And we know we have a lot of raving customers, but yet we don't do the best job of harvesting testimonials, right?
Right.
That's bad. That's what you're not. Maybe you're doing it, but
we're trying to do it. I mean, we have 3,500 members, so it's like to connect with everybody, to get them to tell us the stories and logging those. It's kind of need a big team, but so we're trying to automate that in a way and really motivating people to post recaps or stories of what they've done. And we're going to be implementing kind of a badge system. So as we develop community leaders, we want to really recognize what people are doing and give them badges that they could put on LinkedIn and say, this is what I've done, policy circle badges. So,
and do you have is there like some type of, I know nonprofit stuff to do that, but is there like some type of package? Let's say you've got 10 women in your business that are in leadership roles, for 10 people, it's going to be this much per year to help do these things. Do you have that?
Well, that's what we want to do.
Nobody sold me on it yet. Nobody's talked to me about it.
Not yet.
And you talked to all my leaders here that are like you. They're too modest. They're not closers. So we have to get some closers on your team because we got a couple closers too, I think. But either way, there's, in my opinion, the impact and value of leadership growth from these team members will be unbelievable. And it'll be tough to weigh, right? That's why the stories are important. But boy, that's something that I would love to know about. Hey, what's the value? Not the value. What's the approximate cost of this? Because we want to get 10 now, and we want to bring another 10 women in next year, and run them through this program, right? Plus, I do talk politics more than most CEOs of companies, and Q will tell you that. And sometimes it gets old with someone. But if they knew more policy, then I could talk about more.
But just walking in to your office, one of your team members was like, "Hey, Sandy, what do you think about this Iran thing?" And people want to talk about it, right? So I think there's an appetite, and there's no really good forum for people to exchange in a place where it's safe. So I think there's a space for. So I feel like the policy circle could be something that could be in
the safe
lunch and learn kind of thing, and say, well, we have a brief on foreign policy in Middle East, right?
We do lunch and learns. We try to do lunch and learns every week here, right, in our auditorium. So it's a perfect subject matter to do for lunch and learns too.
Yeah.
And have them, go over, hey, here's the challenge. Here's the policy that's built to address that challenge. Here's what we found out. What do you guys think, right?
Yeah. And get people
whoever wants to go to I'm thinking out loud because this is value we deliver to our teammates with these lunch and learns. But hey, whoever wants to go, you got to read this brief to go. And we can only have 40 people in the auditorium for this event. If you want to, sign up, you're in. And how fun would that be? That can be really cool. And I think the more you can attach, learning lessons like this to your brand, the stronger it gets. The more people, these women leaders and their counterparts say, oh my gosh, this is great value. It's only costing what, right? I mean, that should be the end result is, oh my gosh, it's only $1,000 per person per year or whatever. I don't know what only is, but
right. Right. And it's really new for us. It's in this last year, we had a circle at JP Morgan Chase in St. Louis, very, really committed circle. And it was amazing. We had the testimony of one of the participants who said, it prompted her to really interact with the mayor of St. Louis. She's like, I don't think I would have ever done that before.
Yeah.
And those types of stories of engaging in different ways in the communities.
Yeah. You're so much more confident in looking to solve a problem with anybody, a mayor, a governor, a president, whoever. If you seriously have studied it and you think you have a solution, it's easy to talk about, right?
Right.
If you kind of know, but you really don't know, you're just not going to probably bring it up. But if you can dig deep like you're able to do with your information, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I think in one of your podcasts, actually, one of your guests said, for networking, you want to be able to ask good questions. And that's what the policy circle experience gives you. It broadens your knowledge so you can quickly find commonality with people. And that's how we engaged, right? We were able to quickly at a ball game, just have a conversation and just by the questions that I ask you, you're like, wait, what do you do?
Yeah.
So
it's really, immediately I thought about, I thought about the women leaders in our business that I would love to continue to step up and just lean into stuff harder than they have in the past, right?
Yeah,
so
that'd be great.
They're the most. We look at our core values, and again, these women are as or more accountable, and they live by our core values in a strong way, right? Now let's just help and challenge us and help challenge the status quo because you have more confidence. It's key. Okay, so when I think about also your organization, I look at the 3, 4, 5 regional, national organizations I'm involved in, and I think of Job Creators Network. I think of Turning Point USA and Republican Governors Association. I mean, do you guys? I mean, you can go to the first couple meetings of any of these things at no cost, probably, right? Do you have any aspirations, or do you send some of your people to them and find the 10 women in the room? Hey, come here, I want to talk to you.
Yeah, so we've talked to the Job Creators Network. So we're in discussion with them.
I was one of the.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's a lot of synergies. There's a lot of synergies because they're trying to get women entrepreneurs to really tell their story, and
we're trying to get them to run too.
Yeah, and to run. So this becomes, this really becomes a tool for them to build the confidence to then engage more publicly. So for those who are not ready.
It's perfect.
So, and give the backgrounds because it just gives you a comfort level with all issues.
So I was one of the original CEOs in Job Creators Network 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And Bernie Marcus is the brain behind it all, and he had some amazing people around him that said, "Let's get this started." But bottom line is, all they want to do is look at regulation, good and bad, and say, boy, this is really stagnant, old, and not doing anything. Why is it there? Right? It needs to go. Or wow, Congress has got this new regulation they're trying to get passed, and it's crazy. It's going to kill jobs. Right? That's all Job Creators Network does.
Right.
And it's invaluable to our country, and to have women really jumping in and leading that will be awesome.
Right.
We've got a few, but we need more.
Yeah, so we are talking with them just so that the policy circle is a tool to develop that confidence to do it. So That's great. Absolutely. And Heidi Ganal was one of our early connectors. So we have different roles for people to grow, to fuel our growth. We didn't do a lot of
Heidi
PR.
Heidi is the pet. What is it? Doggy.
The dog daycare. Yeah,
we had her online to do this, and we haven't gotten her in here yet to do this.
Oh, she would be great.
She'd be great.
Yeah, it should be great. So we have, for anyone can be a connector for the policy circle. So we have this program where you can have an app on your phone, and whoever you meet, and you're like, you should really start a policy circle.
Aww.
So you click, and then you have a template email, and it sends them an email, and it gives us their contact information so we could do the follow-up. And so that's a real role for men and women and for anyone. And we have circle, so
Q, we got to take a page out of that one. You're gonna have to mimic what she's doing there.
Circle, yeah.
For true mentors.
Well, we got the same thing though.
Oh, okay. Well, let's
like a text message.
Let's compare notes. Let's compare notes.
Let's
compare notes and see is ours has just developed then, right? Because
we've had it.
Well, I don't know about it, so I'm not using it. So we need to make sure everybody's got it. So either way, well, and it's not Q's fault. I'm the guy that just started using a smartphone. I've never used a laptop in my life. Actually, smartphone. I've been using it for a while, maybe 5 years now.
See, we talked about early adopters early. He's still on the Palm. So
no, I went to the BlackBerry. What are you talking about? No, but in the field, I love technology. But in the office, I can't. I've never really grasped it very well. So Q's got to pull me along. But we got to make sure that ours is as good as hers, as good as Sylvie's. If it's not, we're in trouble. All right. But okay, so we're going to network in the future of this because we want these women that become your success stories and your leaders. And we want them on Ditch Digger CEO. These women that have had great success that are involved and helping you grow this, or those that are going to be in the future. We want you to be out there saying, "Hey, you got to get a ditch digger. You're a ditch digger story."
Absolutely.
Like Heidi's a great one, and I've run into so many people that know her, and she's in Job Creators Network and all that. She's been a great advocate for that. But again, we got to get Heidi on. We got to make a note of that.
Let's do it.
All right. So when you think about this Canada, America, and you've been all over the world to different places and traveled a bit, and what we always like to say, America, is it that great a place? You could have done this in China. You could do this stuff this policy circle. They probably would have let you do it in Russia.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Venezuela. You could have been a success story, and your family could have been a success there too. I'm sure, right? How do you when you think about America and the blessings we have here? How do you look at this?
I think back my first year when I came here in the U.S. and I'm just from across the border, right? Not very far, but I'm always struck by the energy that people have, this desire to solve problems, to start to make it, to be really a trailblazer, and not to be afraid to try new things, right? And then that's the spirit, that's this creative mindset, I think is one that we need to ensure that the environment is there to continue to support that, because I think Americans take it for granted. Take it for granted here, and they think it's the same everywhere, and it's just not. It's not, even just across the border, not very far. It's not at that level.
Sure.
And this trepidation and this impatience of that Americans have, and this desire for action is really unique. It's unique in the world. And this sense of community here is unbelievable. How everybody rolls up their sleeve to help each other. The meal trains to the sign-up geniuses. That could not have been conceived anywhere else in the world, because the mindset is just not there anywhere else to help each other the way people help each other here, and communities are built. And I find that really unique. And I just love being I am an American. and so I just love being here, and I love everyone that I meet across the country. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And everybody loves you. Anybody that meets you.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Your passion and your drive and passion and is not even in America isn't common, right? I mean, we are a country of innovators and passion, all these things, right? But it's attitudes like yours that make a big difference in this world. So we're blessed to be able to have you on our show.
Yeah.
And what'd you learn here?
Man.
It's got these things called Q's, takeaways. So go ahead.
We got some Quentin's true takeaways here, and I actually dissected a little bit of it because you definitely said some amazing key points and some takeaways I have. So the first one that I have is first, and I think this is for anything, to be honest, but be an early adopter. You know what I mean? And I think that was one of the biggest things you told us that you did. But that's kind of a mindset thing. It's not just doing it like the fact that you were willing to do that consistently kind of got you to where you're at, even now, even with Policy Circle, because I've never even heard anything like that, which is pretty cool. Another one that you said was a quote, solving a problem by fixing a process that started the problem. I think a lot of people try to solve a problem, but they're not thinking about the process. I can tell you that. They're just saying, let's just get it fixed. But they're not necessarily knowing exactly what that looks like. So that was awesome. I know we harped on it, but I think it was probably one of the most important parts of the whole podcast outside of the Policy Circle. But raise your gaze. And you said how you did it by know your industry. You even said it. If you were able to know more about the Canadian Post necessarily, you would be just a lot more again, appreciative. So we kind of talked about it. But one thing I think, and we even talked about, a lot of people need to do more. And here's another tip here, a takeaway. You learn by asking questions, and we always say you get 50% of what you ask for and 100% of what you don't, So I think that was pretty cool. Knowing yourself first is extremely huge in mentorship. But I think the biggest thing for all of us, whether Americans or not, it's just you being you. is be braggadocious, you guys. Brag for God's sakes. Gosh.
With
and everybody
with a little bit of class.
Well, brag. Oh, look, we just got an ism from Gary. Brag with class. Look at that. Why don't you brag? I mean, she gave you raise your gaze. You might as well give her brag with class. There you go. But that was good. That was really good, Sylvie. That was awesome.
No, we appreciate you being here, and this is awesome because I believe the messages here are many. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Beyond the bullet points that you raised, there's so many messages of how we should think in the future, how leaders should think. I mean, we often don't go beyond the headlines or very, very, very deep below the headlines, right? When we're looking at stuff that makes a big impact in our lives, when it comes to our communities and our local, state, and federal government. and gosh, if this goes to guys, gals, and everybody, you let us know. We'll help start the male side of it, because I think
we already have one circle, but a lot of men are like, "Oh, can I start?" I mean, you can. But,
it's a no-brainer. I mean,
it's a no-brainer. It's just the name, circle, posse circle.
Well, and also you've got the foundation of it built, right? Yeah. So it could be awesome.
It can be anybody, really.
Because nobody has enough time usually to really do the due diligence you're doing up front for the foundation of information that you have. So I mean, I just think there's so much room for growth with this. It's going to be a blast to watch what you do with it, and the minds you change because of it. So I want to make sure we're able to do this again in a few years, right? IQ, to see it at 30,000.
I mean, she already
circles.
has 3,500, man. I mean, she has 3,500 members.
I know, 300 circles, right?
I mean,
300.
Yeah.
We want to see 35,000 circles, and we want to see, some of us we want to see some type of a uneducated hillbilly circle for guys like me. Okay, where you got to go a lot. You got to go deep, but you got to explain it really shallow and really in simple terms. Okay,
you can never underestimate people, right? You can't say that.
Oh, I can. I'm living this thing. I'm living this body and this mind. Right? I can say it. But anyway, no. Thanks for being here.
Well, really thank you for having me. It's really great to meet you and have this conversation. So thank you. Thank you.
And we'll see you all next time on Ditch Diggers CEO.
See ya.